Got to talk about the revenue growth warnings here, that it could decelerate significantly, in part due to this new Apple ad tracking software. Users just aren't opting in, which is not a surprise. What's your take here?
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Emily. I guess a couple of things. Look, IDFA from Apple, it's interesting because the social media companies that reported results last week notably indicated that IDFA didn't have a negative impact on results, and they didn't really indicate that they thought it would. So to some extent, sure, this may influence Facebook, but I also think that Facebook has some difficult comparisons in the back half of the year. Perhaps this is just them being reasonable and conservative in terms of the guidance they're providing.
What's your focus on user growth? I mean, obviously, Facebook is now this family of products, the Blue app, there's Instagram, there's WhatsApp. Are you at all concerned that as people return to work, that, we're spending less time on our devices, we're spending less time social networking?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be an influence on what goes on with Facebook and, frankly, the other social media companies. We saw 7% growth in DAU and MAU. Look, it's significant deceleration from the 12% we saw from each of those in the year-ago period. That's not surprising because, of course, we saw so much uptake and engagement last year when everyone was at home. That being said, I think this is really now a story about the rate at which pricing can increase. That was probably the single biggest contributor to revenue growth in the second quarter. And I'm just not so sure that they're going to have the favorable comparisons as well as I'd say kind of the pricing tailwinds to maintain that momentum. That's why we're seeing the guidance where it is. And that's frankly why I think the street was already below 20% revenue growth for next year and the out year as well.
We're listening in to the earnings call on Mark Zuckerberg talking about AI, talking about new tools they're giving to creators. Let's take a quick listen in to what he's been saying.
Now, people like to watch videos recommended by our personalized algorithms. So this gives creators a good way to reach new people who don't follow them yet. And this is also a good complement to our social feeds. And it's an area where our progress in AI is going to make the experience a lot better in the coming months and years.
Meantime, Scotty's been talking up the metaverse, which is this idea that there is a future internet we will be in rather than on. And, I wonder if this is something that Zuckerberg is chasing because he knows that, traditional activity on social platforms isn't necessarily going to last as technology is changing so quickly around all of us. How do you think about that when you think of the future of Facebook, and how big a threat is it?
Well, look, I think it's fair to say that the company is looking for other growth drivers, right? I mean, a big pivot to e-commerce, understandably, last year. They've been talking about AI for a long time. I feel like Oculus was acquired about 7 years ago, and it's not, I think, unthinkable to suggest that other social media companies are actually doing AR and VR better than Facebook. So understandably, it's a priority. I think a lot of people want to see that in the product and driving operational and maybe financial benefits to come.